Good morning. So this is question and answer session number 1. And thank you, those of you who posted questions, and I will do my best. Unedited version, just like my life, crazy, natural, whatever happens, happens. So here we go. First question was, how do you prepare your kids for the ACT and SAT, and what programs or books do you use? Very, very common question. First of all, I'll say our kids get very average scores, even on the lower end, because they are 10.5 and 11 when they're taking these exams. So we are not the crowd that is getting the scholarships, not at this age. Our goal is to get them in. So if you are wanting your kids to get 35s to get a full ride somewhere, you might have to wait till they're 17 and 18. It's up to you. Our kids aren't doing that. They're very bright and hardworking, but they're not the genius types that are getting perfect scores on the SAT. And we just simply go to Amazon and buy even used review books. What are the brands? I can't think of the brands. It doesn't matter because I'm not promoting anything. Just Google ACT, SAT review books. Some of them are used, may already have the answers circled in them. It doesn't matter. The idea is the exposure. But I think the key here is that these exams are not presented to our kids like a one-time exam that determines your whole future, like it was for me as I was coming up through the California public schools. It was a high-pressured exam, high stakes. For our kids, they know that they can take it many, many times. And I don't know the official number, but you can Google that yourself, but you can probably take it more than 7 times. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna guess. But they know that the first time they take it, it's just for exposure. There's no pressure. When they're done, we celebrate, go out to lunch. It's a big deal. Many times when they're 10.5 or 11, they're having a sibling who's maybe 12 or 13 and already in college taking it with them, so that they are literally in the same room, maybe a different aisle, all done with integrity, but they have someone to go in there with that they know. Sometimes their feet are dangling, they can't even touch the bottom of their chairs, and people kind of assume that they're just doing it like a pre-test, like a PSAT type thing. Nobody really makes a big deal out of it. And our kids have military IDs to take this exam, but you can go and get just a regular state ID if they don't have an ID. So that's doable. And it's just, the main thing is the pressure is off. And then we always, we do not send the exam scores directly to a university. We usually have them sent to us first, and then we order it later, order the exam report later to see what they missed, and then if the score meets the minimum, then we send it to the university. So that helps a lot, even for my stress level, so I'm not so nervous about what they get. The second question that was sent was, what kind of schoolwork would you give your 6-year-old to do? So at 6, we expect them to be, or hoping that they're reading independently, maybe even easy chapter books. Not all of my kids did. In our book, we talk about some of our reluctant readers. I won't mention his name, Seth, who thought that he could go through life and not ever learn how to read, and which was kind of funny because he eventually did learn that you're going to have to learn how to read. Even if you want to work at McDonald's, you're going to have to learn how to read. That's not a slight against anyone who works at McDonald's, but he thought that he wouldn't have to go to college and he didn't have to learn how to read. But eventually he learned the love about history. He loved history, and that's when he started reading chapter books into college level books. But at 6, mainly it's lots and lots of reading, math, like we mentioned in our book. We do character building through Bible, and then writing every day. And we have our kids write short essays. Our goal is the 5-paragraph essay, but at 6 they can at least try to write a paragraph, and then mom corrects it or dad corrects it, and then they rewrite it. So they do a lot of dictation and a lot of rewriting. But reading is the key to doing science and history, and just making it fun, letting them choose what kind of books they want to read. there was someone named Purple on 3 wanted to know if my husband and I worked out outside the home while we homeschooled, and the answer is definitely yes. My husband and I married young. He was in the military. He actually got his degrees while on active duty. It took him a long, long time. My husband got his his doctorate degree when he was in his 40s, and then in the beginning of our kids starting school, I felt like I couldn't homeschool because I had to work and do daycare in my home. And then finally, when our oldest was in the 3rd grade, that's when my husband went back into active duty Air Force for a short break, and after a short break. And that's when I thought, okay, I can be home now, I can homeschool. So I did start homeschooling, but after several years, I found myself in a place where I had to work weekends or a couple of evenings at my nursing job. And so that was tricky. I had preteens and teenagers then, and they helped out with the little ones. I tried to do homeschooling in the morning and then work evenings. And there were times where I was able to quit, and then times when I had to go back. So at that point, whether I had to work or not, or whether Kip was in between jobs, we just were committed to homeschooling, and we knew that we were going to do what we had to do to make it work. So I know that there are even single parents out there who want to homeschool, and it's difficult, and you might be able to find a family member who can help, or a friend who's homeschooling theirs, and depending what the laws are in your state, maybe someone you guys could share the homeschooling, because it's different in every state. But I think the idea is that if it's a desire in your heart and you feel God calling you to homeschool and you do have to work, you can put it on God and say, God, you're asking me to do this, but I need you to show me how. And in our book, we talked about how the first time I heard about homeschooling was I met a nurse who would work night shift, come home, get her kids started on her schoolwork. She had 5 kids, and then she would sleep and then wake up before work and answer their questions. And so I thought, wow, this must be really important, because she was so committed to do that. So you can make it work. And someone named Evie asked, how do you deal with bad attitudes and conflicts between your kids, especially when competing for your attention? I wouldn't say that our kids compete for our attention, because our kids get a lot of attention from us and each other because there's so many of them. I imagine if you had 1 or 2, maybe that would be an issue. But the bad attitudes and conflicts, I think we try our best and we fail to lead by example. And if we are praying together as a family, going to church, reading the Bible daily, and we can say, what would Jesus do? And it's not just a cliche. It is really, what does God's word say about our attitudes and how we're supposed to treat each other, whether at home or out in public? It should always be the same. That helps the character building. But, to the folks who necessarily don't believe in Christianity or the Bible, you have to have some kind of moral code that appeals to your child's heart. And for us, it's always Jesus. But and at some point, a young child even, has to come to true repentance, because you have to win their heart over. A bunch of rules and legalism, that's not going to work. And so that's why we say in our book, you can have a academically brilliant child who accomplishes all these great things, but if they don't know the Lord, then what is the point, really? So I think most of the bad attitudes or conflicts are dealt with a timeout and hey, do you see what you're doing? Is this how you're supposed to treat others, and how would you want to be treated? The golden rule. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's work. And the more time you spend together as a family and do things together, I think it helps the kids grow closer to each other. And asking them to help each other with tutoring helps the older ones kind of have some responsibility for the younger ones. And it helps with those attitudes of sometimes older kids don't want to be seen or don't want to hang out with little kids. And we don't necessarily have that issue because we're together all the time and they're friends with each other. But maybe sometime I could have my kids answer that question for you. with a couple together. That'd be kind of fun. Just let me know if you want to see more of that, of my kids answering questions. And then someone named Aiza asked, and I'll read the question. It might be English is your second language. I'm not sure, but I'm going to read the question. It says, your kids have a high school diploma and can get a job or career like an average person. So the answer is not when they first start college, because if they're 12, they're, other than babysitting and mowing lawns, there's not very many places that would employ them. There aren't very many places. But when they get their bachelor's degree and say they're 15, maybe they could work, but a lot of places require to be 18 to be in management or hold the keys to a business. So that's why most of our kids have gotten graduate degrees, because that way that puts them more at 17 or 18 when they're really ready to hit the workforce. So our kids have had some fast food jobs, but for the most part, they are not really working until they're done with their bachelor's or in graduate school or soon after that. And the other part of the question says, like, by a job, I even mean a job you could get without having to do college, like babysitting. So I'm not really sure, Aiza, I apologize. Maybe you can send me a message and rephrase your question, but I'll say it again. My kids have all been able to babysit or tutor at younger ages, but as far as a wage that they can live alone off of is usually after graduate school. And if possible, we like them to not work during school at all so they can concentrate on getting good grades. But it's been different as our finances have been up and down. What our kids have needed to do has been different times. My kids are telling me that I need to say this. So we would like for you to share, like, subscribe. We'd like to get to 1,000 subscribers. And if you leave comments below, let us know what kind of videos you'd like to see, or post more questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you so much, and God bless you.